If you make one more gesture like that, you and I are going to have a conversation when this hand is over, okay?
She folds.
You want to see it?
Yeah, I want to see
Sick bluff, turn the double gutter and missed. Never mind. 9 high like a boss.
Imagine a poker tournament where one player's voice dominates the room, turning strategy into spectacle. That's what happened at the 2016 WSOP Main Event, courtesy of Will Kassouf. His tactics led to penalties, table outbursts, and a divide among pros. Was it innovative edge or unethical delay? As chips stacked and tempers flared, Kassouf's run became pure poker drama. And for weeks, the main event stopped feeling like a championship and started feeling like a show. Born in the UK in 1981, Will Kassouf didn't begin his journey as a full-time gambler. He was a practicing lawyer, spending his days in courtrooms and his nights grinding low-stakes games at London's Victoria Casino. While others chased overnight glory, Kassouf played the long game. He balanced law and poker for years, carefully building his bankroll and sharpening his skills one hand at a time. Everything changed in 2009. At the Irish Poker Open, Kassouf broke through with a 6th-place finish worth over $130,000, his first 6-figure score and a defining moment in his career. Smaller cashes followed, but that run proved something important. He could compete on a big stage. Still, he didn't rush. Even after quitting his law career in 2013, Kassouf spent years grinding modest buy-ins across Europe, piling up steady results, and refusing to skip steps. What truly set him apart wasn't just discipline, it was psychology. Kassouf lived for speech play, pushing opponents off balance with relentless chatter and mind games. That style fueled his rise, but it also painted a target on his back. By 2016, when he headed to Las Vegas for the WSOP Main Event, Kassouf wasn't just chasing a title. He was walking straight into the moment that would define his legacy, one way or another. With no World Series festivals running in Europe or the Asia-Pacific that year, and the APAC stop scrapped entirely, 2016 funneled the entire poker world toward one place, Las Vegas. Every road led to the desert, and that focus paid off in a big way, because what unfolded there became one of the most dramatic main events poker had seen in years. The 2016 main event was massive, 6,737 players and over $63 million in prize money. The Rio was packed with legends, grinders, and dreamers chasing $8 million at the top, and it was the biggest stage in poker, and it was about to become a theater. At the start, Will Kassouf was just another name in the field, one player among thousands, another hopeful chasing chips, cash, and a gold bracelet. But as the days rolled on and the room began to empty, Kassouf stayed put. While others busted and disappeared into the Vegas night, he kept stacking chips and climbing higher. Didn't take long for everyone to notice him. By the time the tournament reached its later stages, Kassouf was impossible to ignore. He'd earned a reputation fast, and not a quiet one. At any table he sat down at, the atmosphere changed instantly. He talked nonstop. Every pot became a performance. Silence from his opponents didn't slow him down. Talking back didn't either. Once Kassouf entered a hand, the verbal barrage was coming, whether anyone liked it or not.
180? You know how they say it in the dance? 180! This one, if you phone show, I'll show. I'll keep it friendly. Even for the TVs. This will be embarrassing. You don't put me on this hand, I tell you. I can't say what I've got. I can't, of course. Either all in or pass. What do you want me to do? You want me to go all in or fold? Talk to me.
The room split right down the middle. Fans loved him. They thought he was hilarious, electric, and perfect television. Critics couldn't stand him. They believed he was abusing the rules, pushing etiquette to its breaking point, and turning poker into a circus. Either way, Kassouf wasn't just playing cards. He was playing people. His so-called speech play wasn't casual table talk. It was relentless psychological warfare. He talked until the final decision was made, keeping opponents trapped in noise and doubt. His strategy was simple. He flooded the moment with confidence. Strong hand declarations, reassurances, half-truths, constant repetition. The words didn't always make sense, but they didn't have to. The goal wasn't logic. It was disruption. And as frustration grew across the tables, so did his chip stack. Everything boiled over in one unforgettable hand against Stacey Madison. By the river, Kassouf knew his draw had missed completely. For most players, that's the end of the story. Not for him. He shoved all in, putting Madison's entire tournament life on the line. She held pocket queens, an overpair, and a very real hand. She needed time to think. Kassouf refused to give it to her, one moment daring her to call, the next warning her not to embarrass herself on television. The words came fast and non-stop, a wall of sound designed to break concentration. It worked so well that the floor was eventually forced to intervene. Ordered to stay silent, Kassouf technically complied, then immediately switched to exaggerated hand gestures, continuing the pressure without saying a word. Minutes dragged on. The tension thickened. Finally, visibly rattled and exhausted, Stacey folded. That's when Kassouf exploded. He flipped over his cards, revealing a pure bluff, and shouted, "9 high like a boss, big heart of a lion."
9 high like a boss. No heart. Big heart of a lion.
After the dust settled on that infamous hand, tournament director Jack Effel stepped in and handed Will Kassouf a one-round penalty.
Dave, this guy's on a one-round penalty until he gets back to the small blind. One round.
Kassouf himself took it in stride. He shrugged, nodded, and walked away. The wider poker world, however, did not move on so easily. When the clip aired on ESPN, the backlash was instant. Some argued the penalty was emotional and unnecessary. Others believed it didn't go far enough. Kassouf, meanwhile, doubled down. Tension turned into open hostility. Some players brushed it off as gamesmanship. Others were furious, not just at Kassouf, but at the officials for allowing it to continue. And their frustration wasn't only about the non-stop chatter. Time was becoming a real issue. Hands dragged. Decisions took forever. The pace of play slowed to a painful crawl, and that's a legitimate problem in a tournament of this magnitude. By day 7, the time wasting had become impossible to ignore. Even through the edited television broadcast, the delays were obvious. For those actually in the room, it was exhausting. It brought back memories of the 2015 main event final table, when endless tanking drove viewers away in droves. Kassouf wasn't helping poker's image by flirting with that same kind of spectacle. When respected pro Cliff Josephy repeatedly called him a clown, it showed how far the tension had escalated. Still, from a purely strategic standpoint, Kassouf's plan was airtight. His whole game revolved around discomfort. If opponents were angry, distracted, or rattled, he was winning. He wasn't cheating. He wasn't angle shooting in the traditional sense. He was exploiting the system exactly as it was written. And for a while, it worked perfectly. But in a room filled with tired players, bruised egos, and millions of dollars on the line, that kind of tension can only build for so long. Eventually, someone was bound to snap, and it was only a matter of time before Will Kassouf found himself squarely in the crosshairs. With just 2 tables left in the main event and millions of dollars hanging in the balance, the tension was already sky high. Then came the hand that turned the room into a pressure cooker. Britain's Will Kassouf found himself in a massive showdown with Canada's Griffin Benger, and from the moment the cards were in the air, it felt like something explosive was coming. The hand itself was brutal. Kassouf picked up pocket kings and re-raised Benger, only for Benger to fire back with a 4-bet that put Kassouf in a corner. At that point, there were really only 2 options: shove all in or fold. Folding kings at this stage of the tournament was never realistic, but Kassouf didn't rush. Instead, he leaned into what had become his trademark move throughout the event: talking. He tried to pull Benger into conversation, tossing out familiar lines and fishing for any hint of weakness. Benger, locked in and silent, stared straight ahead. Minutes passed. The room grew uncomfortable. Everyone knew both players were holding monsters, and everyone knew this pot could decide who had a real path to the title. Eventually, the silence broke, but not the way Kassouf hoped. After more than 2 minutes, the clock was called, and Benger finally snapped. What followed was a raw, emotional outburst. Benger accused Kassouf of being abusive, of crossing a line, of turning mind games into something personal. Kassouf brushed it off, calmly insisting it was just speech play, part of poker's mental battle. That only poured more fuel on the fire. By then, it felt like the entire table was done with Kassouf's antics. Players had tolerated it earlier, but this deep in the tournament, with careers and life-changing money at stake, patience was gone.
It's verbal abuse.
You're not even gaining any information. He's
what
not
you're
talking
doing
to you.
is verbal abuse.
Why is
You're
it
a
verbal
bully.
abuse?
It's rude. It's mean.
It's called speech play.
It's not about.
I'm
No,
giving
it's
heads
not
up.
called speech play. It's called being a bad person.
Still, Kassouf stuck to his plan. After one final pause, he shoved all in. Benger snap-called. Nearly 28 million chips sat in the middle.
You want to gamble? Okay, I'm all in.
I call.
Let's go.
This was the tournament. Benger erupted, celebrating before the board even ran out, confident he had Kassouf crushed.
I'm not slow rolling. I'm put a king out there. I'm fine for everything. We have the aces. Yes.
Kassouf, never backing down, kept poking, calling for a miracle king on the river.
All right, put the king of hearts on the pow. Smash it.
The verbal sparring reached its peak, so intense that even veteran commentator Norman Chad joked about how dark the atmosphere felt. The board ran out clean, no king came, Benger won the pot, and the room exploded. Kassouf was eliminated just short of the final table. His talk finally silenced. He still walked away with over $300,000, the biggest score of his career at that time, but there was no hiding the disappointment. He didn't make the final table, but he made sure nobody would ever forget 2016.